Everyone are so quiet.
Hello. Wait.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, guys. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
Uh, uh, place is looking different today. I think they took some of the assets, or it's just a naked room.
It's a different server. No one is talking.
Choose a new avatar.
I tried to register with my email, so I'll be able to switch to my own GLTF, but it's not possible in this server.
One of the benefits has always been being able to bring your own, a GLTF model or something to put in here, and maybe that becomes part of the discussion point. Does anybody know if there's supposed to be a presenter or some show and tell?
I can't
Answer
hear
the
you.
streaming
Stream
camera
camera or M-sub.
So far, I've only heard D Panther and Jimmy.
It's Yinxia. Maybe you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Good evening.
Yep.
Evening.
There was a post last week from Jin, who I think he's one of the he got the award last year for the one of the WebXR developers, and his point in the Twitter was that none of the big standard setting organization bodies that he's involved with, or very few of them, actually bother to do their events and meetings in XR as an organization, even though that's what they're technically talking about. And this is one of the few notable exceptions, I think. So I think it's worth whatever teething errors are involved.
Jimmy, do you regularly hold meetings in VR or just kind of when you come to the XR meetup?
Is a program that lets you go through design sessions, and so you can, you walk around objects as a team and do your own three-dimensional whiteboarding. And I think it's totally not something you could accomplish. I don't even think sitting in the same room at a table together, frankly. It's the next best thing, if in some ways better.
Very cool. Is that a? Oh, I hear someone. Yeah, I hear MSUP too.
Apologies for the difficulty earlier. I think the Quest Pro
I did in the WebXR as well. Medieval matchup is mine. Even so, I would have expected more, even in the WebXR, but still. There's a lot of them in the other categories, but this was rather empty.
Is it your first time participating?
Sorry?
Like, is it your first time entering the competition?
For me, it was, yeah.
Nice. How was the
Source Code
experience?
has done it before. Yeah, that was actually quite nice. It was a month is a good period because it's long enough to really build something, and it's short enough to sort of not having to sort of how do you call that? Get in the drudge of it, and also the size has the same sort of way of making sure that you don't spend too much time on it. I mean, I've got a I've got a daytime job, so that's good. So there's only a limited time that you can spend, but the size helped a lot as well. And I was sort of surprised how far you can get. It's the zipped size, of course. It's not 13K unzipped, it's 13K zipped. So I think all in all, it's like 70K code or something. But still, that's pretty decent, I think.
Great.
Do they did they announce winners to that, or is that still do they?
Yes, there is. It's October 5th. Well, since no one is presenting, let me please present my game then for 5 minutes. You should be seeing my screen by now. I can't see the screen anymore, so you guys have to plant it somewhere where you can see it. Okay, so as you might know, I do smooth voxels. I have a whole smooth voxels library where you can smooth out voxels. So I sort of use the same sort of things I did here, except I couldn't fit in the whole library that's much larger than would fit in here. So I did use a sort of similar way to lay out voxels and use those as stones to play the game. So I have no idea where I'm at. Oh, this is the start of the game. So you start out with the empty aisle, and slowly it fills up, and then you just choose your stones and you select them until everything is gone, and in the end, it shows up as the real object shows up on that place on the island. That's sort of the whole thing. Oh, let's see. You guys have the screen up there or not?
It's fine, and now it's disappeared for the last.
Okay. Oh, that's surprising.
Something floating up in the air in the sky.
I need to share it again.
It's kind of like zero gravity.
Got it.
I see an island now.
Okay, now you see it. Yeah. So this is let me refresh this one. So you start out with the island, you see what you're gonna get at the end, but once you start, the whole island sort of gets cleared. And you start out first, you have to puzzle for the trees, and then it slowly reveals all of the objects on the island. So every time you have to select the correct, match the stones. That's basically it. So it's a simple puzzle game, but it's still, since it's quite a lot of objects, it will take you quite a bit of time to play it all out. And in the end, everything appears. So in the end, you get your whole island filled with all of the different parts that you see here. So that's about it. And so all of the things is all of the stones, all of these of course these textures are quite big, so they won't fit. So there's actually the texture itself. I use sort of the same texture, but then for I create a normal from it. I create roughness map from it, so they look good, even though you don't have the size in your game. Of course, everything is generated on the spot. The stones themselves are sort of I just manually crafted them, so you can put them in JavaScript as a simple. Basically, you just create all of the vertices themselves, but all of the levels are similar to what I do with my smooth voxels stuff. It's just a sort of ASCII art sort of definition of all of these puzzles that creates the different puzzles, and then it fills up automatically with random stones or random cubes, but making sure that there's at least 2 of each of them, so you can combine them to fill out the puzzle. That's it. Basically quite simple. I stole some stuff from other places. So the sea is something adapted from Shader Toy. I borrowed some stuff from my own smooth voxel engine. So that's about it. So all in all, I think I have 12 bytes left or something like that. So I could still, in theory, add something. Yeah, probably not much. But like I said, it's really good that you sort of have to force yourself to fit in a certain size, because at some point you go, okay, this doesn't fit anymore. So in the last stuff, I fixed some bugs, and I wanted to add some sound, because it makes a real difference if you play this in VR. I have the waves. You hear the waves of the sea, and that makes a bit sort of difference in sort of filling out the space. So I really wanted to add noise there, but I couldn't fit it in except by generated again in JavaScript. So I added the JavaScript to create the noise for the waves. But then after that, I was really done size-wise. There's still a bug somewhere in, but that only happens after a couple of levels. So I assumed no one will find it that fast anyway. So that's not too bad. Some point the sound sort of quits working correctly, but and basically just A-frame and 3JS. So it's a bit of A-frame and a lot of 3JS.
A-frame is a cool entry level for 3JS, I think.
Yeah, I like the fact that you can just lay out the stuff simply on the scenes, etc. But I do a lot of things where I calculate the vertices and the faces myself, and that's all within 3JS. So indeed, like you say, it sort of helps you to structure stuff, the bit larger parts, and it leaves you to do all the detailed stuff in 3JS. So I kind of like the combination there, to combine these two. And since A-frame just includes 3JS, that's fine as well, of course.
Very cool, yes.
Oh, hey folks. Am I missing something? Everybody's looking at me all of a sudden. Oh, well, I am not actually very prepared for that. But thank you. Yeah, sure. But please allow me to do a shameless plug for our MetaConnect WebXR presentation that's coming up next week. You are going to be able to take some time and watch it online. That's awesome. If you're excited and you wanted to connect in person on campus, that's even better. So yeah, cool. Yeah, well, sorry if I drop off again. I was experiencing some technical difficulties just now, and it seems to be working fine now. Yeah, I mean, okay. So Eliz is kind of it was a exploration of mine to try to do multiplayer with. I mean, I didn't want to pay for a server, so I was thinking, we did something interesting with P2P multiplayer last year for Project Flowerbed, and it was kind of nice, but it was only 2 people. Obviously, that wasn't going to be enough for a multiplayer shooter game. So I was thinking, how about if we do like a mesh implementation of this P2P network, and then I kind of hooked it up and and obviously, and then we got to a point where we can have multiple people in the room, and well, they need to do something together. So I added some guns, and people are shooting at each other, and that was kind of nice. So that was kind of the start of this project, and then it kind of spiraled out of control. I was putting in a lot of time in my free time to project, and then I wanted to make it look nicer. So not sure if you guys ever heard of this art studio called Cinti Studio. They're a fantastic source of 3D assets. I think it's very fairly priced for the amount of stuff you're getting. You can't really pick up like single 3D models from them, but you can buy a very nice asset pack, and they probably
They're
have.
on sale every time. Sorry.
Sorry.
They're very much on sale, like every 2 months or something. I love Cinti.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of times you can find them on sale, and yeah, I mean, like Black Friday, I'm sure they're going to be on sale for like 50% or something like that. That'd be a good time to grab something. I think they also participated in the past in a Humble Bundle deal, and that was like such a steal. You paid like $20 and you get like huge asset packs. Anyways, yeah. So that's that, and so I started to make things look nicer. And the next thing you know, okay, I got headlocked for a second. Everybody still hear me? Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So next thing you know, like I've created a world. Yeah, but my perf isn't doing very well. So, by the way, I'm gonna write a whole developer blog and post it in the developer .oculus.com at some point. But yeah, so that this is what the journey I've been through in a unrehearsed version. The perf wasn't doing great, so I started looking at the materials. And well, if you looked at Cinti stuff before, you will know that it's not like very realistic style anyway. So I started to think, well, do we really need like mesh standard material in 3JS, which is kind of expensive? Can we do like a cheaper material? Started looking at mesh Lambert or fall material, and then I was thinking lighting at all, like like it's in space. Technically, there's the lighting situation is very complex. You can't figure it out in a very realistic way, anyways. So I started looking at like normal based materials. Well, a normal. Okay, this is happening a lot. Yeah. So one of the interesting things that I looked at was mesh cat. Sorry, mesh matcat material in 3JS. Well, different engines have their different implementation of it, but mesh matcat materials is interesting because you can use a matcap texture to apply a different look and feel to the object, and well, they still have access. They still have support for texture maps and different kinds of maps. The only thing I was kind of missing from that was emissive map. So I just wrote the shader. I modified the shader of the mesh matcap material to include emissive, if it's emissive map support, and it worked pretty well. So I mean, this is a game that is mostly played by teenagers, to be honest. But so I had a Discord server, and in there, like I asked a bunch of them, are they able to tell the difference from like V1.0, which was using a mesh standard material with environment lighting, versus like in V1.2, I switched to this modified mesh matcap material, and they couldn't tell the difference. And that was great because I freed up like so much of my GPU. I'm actually able to render at 1.5 times the frame buffer than before, the frame buffer scale, sorry. So it used to be 1.0, which is, by the way, like for folks who don't know, the 1.0, which is the default frame buffer scale for 3JS, is not the native resolution of Quest devices. You can, I think, I don't have the specific number here, but it's more realistically, I think it's closer to 2.0. So, but 1.0 is the recommended resolution for your apps to be rendering at. So after I did the material swap, it very easily I can very easily output 1.5 as the frame buffer scale, and it still runs very at 72 frames per second. So yeah, that was interesting and a nice thing to do for the perf. Another
Can
thing.
I ask you something about that? Because you said you're
Yeah.
using now Metcaps, but Metcap have the big drawback, of course, that their lighting is fixed from the direction.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Because you don't sort of see if you move around, the lighting seems to move around as well. That sort of makes it usually not very applicable for scenes where you move around the scene.
Correct. It is, well, if you're using mesh matcap material, you're not striving for realistic, for realism, basically. It is kind of, I mean, it obviously doesn't apply to every project, but for projects that are using kind of an unrealistic art style already, it's it's fine. It's people are not going to be able to tell the difference. Something's a little off. It's not very realistic. Well,
I
so is
actually
your
created a
models.
shader. I have actually a shader that actually uses, that's basically a matcap shader, but that does move with the camera correctly. So it sort of, you have basically the same two sides of your model is the same, look the same, but if you move around, it stays sort of fixed to the normal place. That sort of gives that the lighting stays correct, and it's also still quite performant. So I can give you the shader so you can have a look at that. Maybe that works for you as well.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, please share in the chat so that everybody can take a look, or in the Discord server.
I don't know
That's
if I have it.
fantastic.
I don't know if I have it public somewhere. Let me check.
Well, that's great. Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, another thing I did for performance is that, well, again, this might not apply for everybody, but if your game has like, or experience have a lot of the same objects, I'm sure you've heard of instancing. It's unfortunately not the easiest thing to do in 3JS. You don't have to use the instance mesh, and then you can't have a hierarchy under that particular object, and then you can't set visibility per instance. There's all these kind of drawbacks, but if you take the time to actually write a wrapper for it, I might actually make it a library sometime in the future, to allow. I basically wrote a wrapper myself that allow me to instance a 3JS group. Basically, it just goes down the hierarchy, look for all the meshes, and create an instance mesh thing to it, so that after with this wrapper, you can basically treat an instance as a 3JS object, and then you update the position orientation of that object. That in the backend, it will basically apply the changes to that particular instance of the instance mesh, and that helped my performance a bit as well, especially as you progress into the game, because there's going to be more and more drones and more objects and bullet instances spawning in the game. So yeah, so when people there, you'd be surprised. Like I made the game, I couldn't get past 100, the 100 score, but some kids in the Discord, they can get like easily 600 and even more than that. So they're running into like performance issue at that stage, which the instancing optimization definitely helped. Yeah, let me think if there's anything else. I can't think on top of my head there's anything else worth discussing here, but obviously, if you have any questions, let me know. And also, if you haven't tried the game, please go out, try the game. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
On which devices did you test to see that it's 72 FPS?
So I tested on Quest 2 and Quest Pro. Yeah, and I tried it on Pico. I tried it on Pico. Okay, it was 72, but like I've noticed something really interesting. I'm not sure. I haven't looked very deep into this, but they seem to place a artificial limit on the rendering resolution for WebXR apps. So like even if it doesn't really matter what kind of number I set for the frame buffer scale, it's very blurred. It plays all right on there, but just yeah, I don't know if maybe someone has an idea here. what's happening there, but I don't. Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, some weird stuff to figure out there for sure. Yeah. It is. I recently chatted with the team. I think their team's in Beijing, and it's like a very lean operation. There is like just forget about WebXR. Just in total for their browser is not a lot of people, and but they're trying to get more people, so that's good to hear. And they're actually doing some interesting work there. For example, they're pushing out. I don't know if it's out already, but the last time we chatted, they were talking about they're adding support for immersive PWAs. So basically, having you make your game a PWA, and then you can list it in their store, which is great because I mean, like for MetaQuest, we have our new tab page, which it's decent. It attracts a decent amount of traffic, but for them, they don't have this. I mean, they also have a new tab page, but it wasn't used as much. And being able to put your apps in store is obviously a great way to alternative way to distribute your app and open up new user base, I guess.
Felix, hi.
Hey.
I was just checking. I was just wondering whether you did any like benchmarking on the build. I love the game, by the way. Did you figure out how many draw calls you were going up to? Did you go?
I think okay. So I'm not sure who. Maybe some of you are familiar with Dave Hill. He's my engineering manager at Meta. He made a great guide on this regarding like draw calls and stuff back in 2021. I think it's worth to dig it up and take a look if you're running into performance problems. But I think the general guideline there was to not exceed 200 draw calls. Elysian is obviously this varies. It still varies. Like I instanced most of the things so that the draw call wouldn't change as we go as the game progressed, but there's still some stuff. I think at first it's so when you spawn into the game, you're kind of like bombarded with the UI and all the weapons and stuff. At that point, it's 74 draw calls, and then when you enter the game, it dropped down to 50 something, and then once you're like maybe 20 minutes into the game, it goes back up to close to 100, but it's still very manageable.
Have you used multi-view or however it calls right now to draw the instances to both eyes?
Yeah, I have. So we had done a special build of Three.js that added multi-view support for Three.js, and I am using that particular version of Three.js. I can find. I mean, this is not merged into Three.js yet. We have a pull request up for quite a few months now. Rick Cabanier is the person who did this. Oh, sorry, no, Scott Nagy was the person who did this, but. Yeah, like it's a little bit. I mean, like obviously Mr. Doob is very busy, but it's taking a long time for us to merge that particular change. But we're still trying to do that. Yeah, but I can find that PR, or you can just go there and search for multi-view, and there's a PR there that included all the change necessary to add multi-view support for Three.js.
Yeah, thing is that I remember that in the past the multi-view had some drawbacks, like it was even less performant than the regular shaders. So you are saying now that the performance issues are fixed and it's better to use the multi-view than not.
I'm not making any official recommendation here. I haven't actually done very thorough benchmarking on this, but we did make this choice for Project Flowerbed when we were building it. I think I wasn't the person who was doing this, but I believed we arrived on the conclusion that yes, this particular build does provide a better performance than the raw build. But I can look it up, and I can post some information later. Yeah, I don't have the definite answer here, and it's definitely not coming from Meta that we're recommending to use that build right now. Yeah.
I added the shader to or a link in the chat, Felix.
I saw that. Thank you so much. That's great.
There's a bunch of stuff I was trying out at the time a long time ago, but the Metcap shader is the most interesting one of them.
That is cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm taking a break recently because the MetaConnect is taking all my time. But I do want to add. Okay, so there's a few things I want to do. I want to add a leaderboard, which I feel like would be really nice, a global leaderboard that can drive retention of the app. Another thing I want to do, I don't know how to do it, but I kind of I want to do something to improve the multiplayer flow of the game. Okay, so this is a very this is probably a non-existent problem for people who actually have some money to put towards the servers, but I don't. So it's I don't want to. So it's kind of a very thrifty solution I have right now. As I said, it's a mesh network implementation of P2P multiplayer. So how do I do like multiplayer matchmaking? Well, I simply had a Lambda function on AWS that's hooked up to a SQL database. And so every time you you go into the multiplayer flow, you report that, hey, I am my ID is such and such, and I am open to for a multiplayer session. And then the Lambda, and then at the same time you're fetching you're calling the Lambda API from AWS, which will query the database and say, hey, is there anybody else I can play with? And then if there is, it will show up in the list if you click on it, and you can join. You basically initiated a handshake with the other person. There's a bunch of drawbacks of this method, which is, first of all, you can't fetch too frequently, and that's gonna exceed my free tier thing. And if more people are playing the game, that's obviously even worse. But if you're not I'm currently fetching, I believe, every 2 seconds, but that's still okay. So if a person entered this flow and quickly closed the tab, then you reported that you are actually you wanted to play a multiplayer game, you're available, but then you dropped off in this 2 seconds, and then it can already have shown up in someone else's list, and if they clicked on it, then this flow is not going to be successful. So it feels very janky right now, and also this requires more people to be playing the game to actually have a good matchmaking experience. So I don't know what to do there. Maybe I was thinking maybe I can have a session always active and then directly drop people into the session once when they are requesting to join a multiplayer. But I don't know. I need to experiment some more with this. Yeah. Anybody has some good idea about how to do this cheaply?
There you go.
I'm using Calicius. I'm running Calicius on a server that I pay for, but the server's pretty cheap. And we only have 6-person rooms at a time, so it never goes up to a very big number.
Is this what is this? Who is this?
This is from Web Spaces, from the original architect with Hubs, and he wrote a P2P low-cost solution for multiplayer for Web Spaces, a project he worked on last year, I think, and released a GitHub for to set up. I'll link it in the chat.
That seems very much like what I built for Elysian itself. But it still doesn't solve the problem of multiplayer. I mean, like this worked. I mean, like my solution would have been able to handle like if you have a code and share the code with everybody. That's the thing. But then that's the thing. Like and then I started collecting analytics. That's how I launched Elysian v1.0, by the way. And then I started collecting analytics and see that only for like 100 game sessions, there's only one multiplayer session. Maybe just people don't have friends to play with them in VR, like at that specific time. And then maybe like also it could have something to do with the user expectation of like WebXR games at the current stage, which is maybe they're not powering on their headset to actually play a WebXR game, but rather they're just like maybe waiting for another game to download or like winding down from a game session or something like that. So it's more casual and less likely they will like coordinate off the platform with someone to play a particular game. So that's also limitations that we as WebXR developers have to take into consideration and deal with. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably what I should do for Elysian too. You can also like engineer. I mean, like I had some server component in the background, so I can figure out, hey, if this room is already exceeding like 4 people, then I create another instance and broadcast that. That could work. Yeah, that could be something that I will try. Mhm. That's true. Yeah, that's actually another, I think, pretty highly requested feature is co-op survival, which I feel like is an interesting idea as well. Because like if you play with I play with my partner all the time, but she's not as good, so I just end up like destroying her all the time. It's but yeah, like having a co-op mode that'd be interesting, I think. Yeah, actually, you talked about drones, like. Anybody has some good solution for like pathfinding in Three.js? I'm using the 3 pathfinding, but I forgot who it is. That it's a pretty established library. But then I always have the drones like they will stuck on corners because I have like maybe 90-degree corners and they just stuck on the corner and then they don't go through again because I'm like also I'm still like using raycast down to the floor to check whether they're still on the map. And then when they're on a corner, the raycast doesn't always return a result, and also when they're on that spot, sometimes because like I'm moving around. Like all the demos that 3 pathfinding have, they worked remarkably well because you're not doing pathfinding every single frame. And so, when you click on something, it's usually probably not on the edge of something, and then you can find its way there. That's pretty good. But for a drone, the drone has to continuously follow you. So I'm not doing pathfinding for every drone every single frame. Like I'm kind of doing like a rotation of the drones every frame. But yeah, so like sometimes they're like stuck on a corner and they won't be able to find path. So they're like yeah, because maybe somehow like it wasn't as specifically on the mesh and they couldn't find the path and just stuck there for some time, and you have to like go find that one drone that's stuck in the wall and kill it before the next wave starts. It's kind of bad. Yeah, does anybody have some better
Is
than that?
there like a nav mesh solution for Three.js?
I believe that's the one.
JS, you already used that, right? Recast.
Recast? I don't think I heard that one before. Actually, I can check it out.
Just say that. So let me look this up.
I don't have a pathfinding solution, but I could imagine that you could bevel the corners, like model your way out of trouble if the corners aren't too sharp.
This is what like nav mesh, when you bake navigation mesh in different engines, it adds the borders, like so yeah, bevel and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. Like having like when you bevel something, you add a lot more vertices and faces. I don't know what kind of a performance implication that will have on the pathfinding in general. But yeah, I mean, worth trying. And also, like when you bevel something, it's not completely round. You still have like lots of vertices. I'm not sure if they are stuck on a beveled vertex, whether they will be stuck there or it's going to be fine because it's not 90 degrees. I don't know. I need to look into that stuff. It's kind of still like a black box to me. I need to look into what's actually happening in the library to figure out what's a good solution there. But
I had the
yeah.
same problem with Godot actually. I didn't try this in 3JS, but there's a Godot navigation server, and this is like half a year ago, but I had exactly the same problems. My agents got stuck in corners where they shouldn't be stuck, and in the end of the day, I just checked if they were stuck in the same space, like 2 or 3 seconds, and then I just pull it back, just go back and try to re-go wherever you wanted to go, and
that's exactly what I'm doing. Such a hacky solution, but I guess it works. Yeah.
I mean, as a human, you would do the same.
That's true. That is true. But then sometimes, like, okay, so this is very rare, but like when I pull them back, so there is another, I did another thing that was kind of along the same vein of this, which is, wait, actually, what did I do? Yeah, I pre-sampled the entire map with raycast with a grid pattern, so I know like what is the closest point that I know for sure is on the map. So I'll pull the drone back to that point, and then have the drone like do a pathfinding from there again. And then sometimes, very rarely, when I pull them back to that point, it'll just go back to the corner and then go back to the point. Yeah, but it works on a large part. Oh, what is this?
I guess I would also drag them back to a safe spot, and I think that's what the original Unreal guys did, like having a path, not really navigating the drones, but having a path that they should follow, and if they stray off, then you would push them back into a safe space, so to speak, and then start the navigation again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was pleased to see you put out Elysian when Rumble came out for Horizon Worlds.
Yeah, that was I think Elysian came out first, and then the Rumble thing, and that was actually kind of a bummer because I feel like it's just a better experience. Why would you go play Elysian now that you can play Rumble? But I don't know like anybody who played the V1.0, but at the time it wasn't the bullet effect wasn't like the straight ray thing. It was actually small projectiles. I actually copied that from the Super Rumble thing.
I played it when it was a pellet bullet.
Yeah,
as well as later.
Oh, oh, nice. Oh, very nice. Wow.
I don't know how much you want to control the leaderboard code yourself, but I see you're on HeyVR and they have a leaderboard API. If you just want to connect to theirs, you could get that in quite quickly. I don't know whether you're interested in that.
That is true. Yeah, I might try that, but yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I actually looked into this a little bit. So, like, I mean, if you're sure that you're gonna put your things on there forever, then I think that's a good solution. But the way they like add the SDK for those is that I think like they somehow like they just inject, because you're not bundling the SDK with your code when you upload to AVRIO, but they inject it when you upload it. So like you're not going to be able to use it anywhere else other than on HeyVRIO. But yeah, I mean, still worth a look, I think. And they have a multiplayer, like I think the API is called like Arena API or something like that. I think it's pretty interesting as well for folks. It's still pretty early stage. When I was looking at it, some parts of the doc are not finished, but I think for anybody who want to explore multiplayer and don't want to worry about servers and stuff, that's a yeah, probably worth taking a look at. I think they also have like a room solution built into that. Yes, that's what I think.
Yeah, it's an OG project, and while y'all were talking about different multiplayer WebXR games, it came to mind as something that could be a really nice synergy between them. Add a little bit of meta to them. If you know what I mean, I'll show y'all. So I'll just put this on the big screen. All right, so there's a project. It used to be called VRcade. Then it's called Metacade, started by James Baikianu, who is the now maintainer of JanusWeb and JanusXR, which is a internet browser built from the ground up for VR. That is like now 10 years old, I believe. Medicaid was his project where he was working on a VRcade powered by Internet Archive emulators. And I just think that, I pulled apart the files, and a lot of them were like DAE files and OBJ, and modernized it all into GLBs and brought it into Hyperfy while still paying homage to the original by including an iframe of it in one of these arcade cabinets. I think what would be really cool is, instead of a 2D start page, imagine a VR arcade that's multiplayer. So the WebXR games that people are working on, single player, multiplayer, imagine they had an arcade cabinet for them. I have a template I shared in the world here, and I'm also going to drop it into the WebXR general channel. If you want to remix this and create your own cabinet, I'll include it into the Medicaid lobby. There's other types of vending machines that I'm adding there as well for swag and merch. I've got some vending machines. I got some change machines. It's live in Hyperfy right now. I'll put the URL if anyone wants to check it out. And right now just working on getting more arcade cabinets in there. So a lot of stuff is placeholder, but if you have any suggestions for arcade cabinet like WebXR apps, there's some good websites already that have a lot of WebXR sites that I could just go and skin some cabinets for. Yeah, it's a place that you can kind of see what people are playing, and maybe there could be like a meta leaderboard, like who is on the top score of different types of games, you know, like Robot Rally and Elysium. Maybe there could be, you know, it could just be a fun lobby for discovering WebXR games. So that's part of my inspiration for bringing it back, because when Medicaid was being developed, it was kind of a Janus only project, and because it's on the web, it could be a WebXR, like everybody kind of whole ecosystem project, including things that aren't made with the same engine or framework. So I want to showcase that, and I always thought it was cool because it made you think about you know, the past and the future, and it's kind of how Ready Player One was too, you know, with all the old school games that the protagonist had to play in order to advance through the levels and acquire the Easter eggs and keys. So all this was inspired by it and felt like it needed some revitalization for the next generation to learn about these projects and our efforts in the 2010s. I'll drop a link to the notes that I had. I got to update it with all my recent work that you can see in the screenshots. Some of the early previews from 2014 and on.
Janus was way ahead of its time, but it was open metaverse before you could do portals anywhere. They were doing portals years and years ago.
Yep. Yep, and some of the screenshots you saw, like also, I'll drag this one in. I always love this example. Here's like going from Janus into A-Frame, for example, back in 2016. Yeah. I always love that about just how the Janus devs always thought beyond just themselves and what they're working on. You know, they saw something bigger than that, the whole ecosystem. So it's a good philosophy, you know, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. It's very webby. Yeah.
I think there is supposed to be. I don't know if it's overlapping with the Connect thing on, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday. There's a meta traversal, which is also kind of a sort of a portaling group that gets together and is going world hopping in places that support it through open standards. I think Hubs is one of them on the tour, I think, from that point of view. I don't know how they push the portal between the different nodes, but that's something they put together. I'll drop a link in the chat here. I think I've got an invite to their, it's on Eventbrite that you can sign up for.
anyone remixes one of these cabinets with their game, let me know. Just shoot it over to me on Discord, and I'll drop it into the world. I'm doing some atlasing so that everything stays really nicely optimized. I've got 9 machines per atlas map. Hell yeah. All I got. It's a weekend project.
I'm trying to work on something, but everybody heard about the Unity shenanigans. So I'm still wondering, should I just start it with Unity? Because this is what I know and I have all the tools, or should I look on another engine? Like I really looking at Babylon JS right now. Like I need physics, and I want mixed reality capture options, and whatever next. VRM. I'm doing something with the VRM avatars. I saw Babylon JS VRM implementation, so this is good. But I guess the mixed reality capture I'll have to implement by myself.
Yeah, seems good. I think it
Those
might
guys
be
have
hard
been
mode,
doing.
but
They've been doing their own meetup. I think they're on their second monthly meetup that's organized through the Frame VR guy, Gabriello, what something, and yeah, and so they did. This is they did their second one 2 weeks ago, last week, and it's like a monthly meetup of and it's in Frame, so they're using their own stuff, but it's a Babylon group user group.
Good to know. Thanks.
if you guys are speaking about physics, is it more than collision detection or bullets? Probably a stupid question, but um, let me tell you where I asked this. I have a there's a 3GS Octree implementation somewhere in the examples, and I use that quite heavily right now, and it really serves everything that I need, like collision detection to ground, to walls, and even some, let's say, below bullet thing. And this works very well. And I'm trying to understand why people still go for bullet.js or MO or something like that. And my question is, why do you need a proper physic engine?
Are you talking about three mesh BBH?
No, there's a when I Google everything uh, points to BVH or BHV or something like that, but I'm stuck with the so to speak, with the Octree implementation. I'm sharing the link in the chat in 2 seconds. Yeah, totally understand that. Again, I'm sort of flip-flopping between Godot game engine and 3JS. And with Godot, for example, you need to build, or you don't need to build. You can build nav meshes, and you can build collision meshes and stuff like that. And with this very example that I posted in the chat, it's like, I don't know, 0.5 seconds octree building, and then I have collision detection for free, so to speak. And then I wondered, why do I need proper physics? Of course, there are a lot of reasons why you would need that, and you named a couple of that. But basically, coming from a first-person controller background, I need collision detection, and you don't need proper physics for that. That's where my question came from. Or yeah, okay, yeah, totally understandable. Yeah, and I totally agree. It's just that I found this particular example, and it solved a lot of problems without having me think about physics again for a, let's say, very standard navigation and moving. And from that, I assumed that I really have to think about when I need a proper physics engine again. And for most of my use cases, I don't.
Yeah, sometimes you like you have a hammer and you use it for everything. So in web you should take the minimum that you need from the library or from the engine. But does anyone try the physics engine WASM implementation? Yes, with 3, for example. And hmm? And how simple was it used to use it? It sounds straightforward. Like it sounds that if you use the physics engine in any engine, it's similar. Thanks.
I don't know if anybody's interested, but there's a group called OMI, the Open Metaverse Group Initiative, Initiative Group something, and they're doing a open house next Saturday that is about physics in the open metaverse. That's the theme. They're actually looking for like lightning round speakers. Anybody who's interested in doing a quick session like what we do here, type of thing. I don't know if any of you guys would be up to that, but it's intended for next Saturday, so the 30th.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, demo day.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. No, I highly recommend it. They really want like more voices giving feedback. They've been at these discussions and the PRs and just like really in the trenches, and it can't just be 2 people to come up with standards. It needs many voices. So definitely check out OMI Group. I left a link in the chat. But there's a special event on Saturday.
Yeah, maybe I might DM you guys if you're interested. If any of you guys are interested in doing a lightning round talk, for joining that. I think it's in. Yeah, I'll find the invite and see what the story is on that.
Yeah, I've been getting into more demo day, virtual event type stuff recently as well. I really think that we need to take more. We need to bump the production value of these events because with AI service, for example, I've been uploading past content to things like Firefly's AI for summarization and notes, and it gives me the most beautiful note taking ever. And it's just ready for, just a little bit of touch up, and then boom, you got documentation right there. And the WebXR space is always in search of more documentation and public info on how to create stuff and all these different types of things that we're discussing. It's if we can make that more discoverable, that's always good for the ecosystem. So I just been uploading more to YouTube and then transcribing all that through AI stuff and setting up events that we could give developers a platform to share work in progress projects and stuff, and for the outcomes to look good on YouTube channels later. Because a lot of the views do come afterwards. You might have 20 people show up to a meetup, but 200 people watch the video after. So it's all a virtual production. Oh, whoa. Flyer. Nice. Fancy. They always did good with the flyers. I just wish that Hubs had a nice way to make things straight up. Okay, there. Sorry, Deep Panther. There you go. Oh, great. Have you seen the Blender stuff though? Looks pretty dope.
The Blender stuff?
Yeah, they have behavior graph type stuff in Blender. Exports straight to Hubs with interactivity, just using Blender's node system.
Wow.
They've been pushing on it hard. I didn't take a deep dive yet, but yeah, pretty impressive. I just wish Blender was more multiplayer, and I know Mixer exists, but it's not being maintained anymore. But feels like we're getting close, like Needle Tools and this Hubs Blender thing. It's like we're dancing around the edges here of something I think pretty awesome.
Yeah, the stuff Needle Tools doing is like, it's always fun to see their videos. I think it can be really useful.
The Hubs Blender stuff. Yeah.
If anybody's wondering, guys, just check the website for that. It's not up yet, so I think they're still just sending this out and preparing the agenda still. Yeah, that link, the one that's on the bottom of that thing, it's not pointing anywhere. I don't know. Yeah.
Speaking of OMI and knowledge bases, another side project I've been working on is gathering data sets for training the AI agents. I've got all the past M3 videos, so 100 videos and hundreds of devlogs gathered, transcribed, summarized. I got all of, with his permission, Kent Bai's podcasts as well. All the Metaverse Standards Forum videos, transcribed and summarized for notes. All of the OMI group meeting discussions from GitHub and all the public repos also organized for, and I'm just thinking each of these data sets, imagine an AI agent front end for each of them. Now imagine these AI agents that each represent the group. Like you could walk up to them and like, hey, what's OMI working on? And, you know, what's this extension? How can I help? You know, but also while we're AFK, imagine them coming up with ideas while we're AFK. You know, just like collaborating and coming up with new ideas and stuff. So thinking about where else I can find good data sets for a AI agent to join this research lab cohort. Yeah, I'm looking to kind of from their research paper, it details a lot of these things together. Particularly this one part about the Jedi Council type setup, where you can kind of like imagine each Jedi was like representing some metaverse org or project. But it can come into all sorts of different forms and whatnot. But I'm very much interested in that particular use case where a knowledge base, because I write a lot of documentation. One thing that bums me out is people don't like to read anymore. So my saving grace, my copium is that at least AI reads all my documentation, and that people be more willing to talk to AI than you know, because it can cut through mountains of data.
Okay.
And it can cross-reference and stuff, you know? So I'm looking at like spatializing knowledge bases and then like not having it as an empty library, but also like kind of like the librarian from Ready Player One, where you can walk up to it and ask it stuff. But you know, it's not just one librarian for all of this knowledge. It's like one per each data set in a way, you know? It can even be many personalities split up with different personas. So like for a Jedi Council, it could be like the engineer who has to implement different types of users. This is like for people who are coming up with a proposal of like what future we want to work on, knowing our capabilities, resources, limitations. They can give the first round of feedback on a proposal. And that feedback can help, you know, people refine their proposals and figure out stuff. But yeah, I'm always on the hunt for open source knowledge bases that could be good for curating into this digital garden of sorts. But yeah, y'all should definitely check out this event next Saturday because I think the original point I was getting on is like production value is important. You know, if we want our research to be surfaced higher, reach more people. I know virtual event production takes a lot of work. I've been doing it for a while and really thankful for these. Oh, I see. It's on the side. Whoa. Yep.
Well, I took this off their Discord server, so it may not be like the last thing that gets sent out. You know, this may be still kind of. Jen, I don't know if they talked to you about the Hyperfy thing. I remember they were looking. Hubs was one of the places they were looking at too.
Mm-hmm. Not yet, but we can make it work. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's next Saturday for sure. The date and time is right, and I think they're still putting the speaker list together too. Anybody in here wants to, and you guys are, you know, I mean, that was the same conversation you're just having right now is what they would do at that event, frankly. So expressions of interest are welcome.
Hey, yeah, and also if you make an arcade cabinet, that also is participating. You can show off your project. It's like a micro booth. Is there going to be a watch party for this Connect thing? Isn't that this week?
Wednesday, Thursday, huh?
Damn, it's going to be a big week. Nice.
I wonder how many like WebXR related stuff there will be. There will be like the talk of Rick and Felix, but I wonder if there will be another talk.
Hey, we could do our own side thing, you know? Have y'all heard about
the Apple one?
LobbyCon?
People were chatting on the Discord in the WebXR Discord during the Apple session. So.
It's according to the website, you know, Facebook stream and we get to see the campus. Well, inspired by it. I'm stoked. I'm actually very interested in virtual campus design for this AI agent idea. You know, if you can imagine all the different metaverse working groups having some kind of, if they were all co-located together onto a campus or a city, what that would look like. Because right now it feels like they're not even aware of each other for the most part and otherwise working in silos.
Once there was geo cities, now there's neo cities, and then there's VR cities.
Indeed. Remember, GeoCities had neighborhoods as a concept.
Yep.
Kind of think of it like that, you know. But you know, the early internet started out with research labs connecting to one another, universities, independent technologists. They just wanted to collaborate easier, so they were building internet technology to do that. So, kind of drawing inspiration from there, if these research and development orgs could connect to one another using the metaverse, then I think that could be the seed of something. I wrote a whole post recently about how metaverse orgs aren't dog fooding the metaverse enough in the process and the implications of such. Like, how many even have a presence in a metaverse,
Yeah, I mean that was what Second Life was pitching at the end of the day, and then Facebook, or should I say Meta, tried to pick this up and somehow failed.
Who was pitching back in the day? What was
Second
the,
Life.
Second Life. Oh yeah.
I mean they were trying to do something like that.
You mean High Fidelity?
Yeah, right. For
I remember that they and I know that last year's Connect was all about working in a metaverse. There's a lot to unpack there. It didn't really pan out, but
Immerse just came out with a new headset. You saw the Visor release last week. That's an interesting system. I mean, it's a headset, but it's a great working platform, frankly. It's better than Meta's own implementation of it under Workrooms.
I want an overlay. Yeah, I don't want to load up Immersed or Boardroom. I want to load up an overlay so I can work while I'm like in VR chat or something, or OpenBrush.
Steam has
or
that OV, the overlay. Steam has an overlay kind of desktop.
Yeah, there's XS overlay. There's OVR toolkit, but they're single player. If they were networked, that would be if they were networked with avatars, that would be the dream. They were so close.
Yeah.
There's another service called Hyperbeam, where we can have shared browser instance over network.
Wasn't it the cloud browser thing?
Yep.
Oh, that allows for because iframes don't work in WebXR, you can use Hyperbeam.
No, like it actually works. It's not actually iframe. They kind of send a stream. I do have a working implementation on Wonderland made recently.
I saw the Play Canvas demo too.
Yeah, it's true. Like there's, they also have an example on A-frame as well, I guess.
I think that would be good for this Medicaid project.
Yep. The only drawback is like we can have do the keyboard input inside the WebXR. It's kind of hard right now because like the keyboard from the MetaQuest, it kind of doesn't register, the key press like as in the normal keyboard.
I see.
But it's kind of good for presentation and that kind of stuff.
I think when it comes to working in VR, it might be a little bit too much of a leap to go straight into the VR. Like when I think about working in a metaverse, maybe there's an in-between point, like how we're doing right now. I know that a lot of us are in desktop mode for many of these, but there's just like the ability to have your own for example, I'm in the avatar wearables and characters group at MSF. There's two working groups, one for avatars and one for wearables, and I'm like the only one that shows up with like using VTuber software and like not just doing PowerPoints but spatializing my notes in worlds, and no one else like is using the VTubing stuff or coming up with their own avatar. I feel like there's lower hanging fruits for using the metaverse than going 0 to 100 like working in VR, which there's a lot to ask for of people at knowing the friction.
Good point.
True.
I think there's a lot of use cases where, having a model, something, especially if let's say you're doing presentations, and there are a couple of, that are immersive and VR based, but I'm sure you could work it where it was just a 2D view into the 3D world, but where instead of a PowerPoint slide, you're dealing with something that you can twist and move around. And ideally, the benefit of being in VR, or again, I think you lose some of that friction when it becomes proper mixed reality, where you still are walking around in the room that you're sitting in, but you have a shared GLB model of the system that you're all working on together, and you can mark it up in 3 dimensions. And that's a very different experience than a normal whiteboard experience or just a screen share on a Zoom call, for instance. I think that's,
I think the whiteboard, just
it's
like
coming.
using that more would be an improvement. Like, have you all seen how prevalent like PowerPoint is? At least with whiteboards, we can like create these ready-made assets that we could bring into virtual worlds to decorate them with. Like, here's an example. Like, I'm in this working group call, and I've got this Zoom call like on a wall in Hyperfy with my VTuber, and I'm like running around these worlds. And this was the Avatar Interop group at MSF. I was hoping, that it could lead to a little bit more participation in the metaverse, but I think once the culture kind of becomes entrenched in what the status quo is, like with Zoom calls and Google Docs and stuff, that it becomes hard to change if it stays that way for some time, but maybe the next progression is like using Figma more or Miro, having that open during calls, and then using those assets to world build with. And then that could create more reason to jump into the metaverse, because then you can spatialize your meeting notes, not just in 2D, but 3D. So it's kind of like a step ladder, function in a way.
At the end of the day, we all start these sessions within the browser, right? And then we have this Chrome versus Safari versus WebKit versus is Google evil or Apple dominant thing. And then from that, we start a VR session or something, or WebXR session actually. And maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
It's a funnel. It starts with a browser, and it kind of funnels down or progressively enhances, Reminds me of Josh Carpenter had this one talk about, the funnel progressive enhancement into WebXR, WebVR at the time. But the VR step still feels like it's pretty involved. Like, I always compare it to packing a bong in a way, because it's like it really kind of takes commitment to go into there, and rather than like something that you can just like quickly check out here and there. Like, I love the Humitos. I love Google Cardboard. I wish we had things that were much more lighter weight to just like tap in with less friction. But if we were to get in VR, I would think that one of the best use cases is like production, like motion capture, for instance. There's some really good stuff for that now, where you don't need full body tracking. But even if you wanted to do full body tracking, the MocoPi It just recently is shipping outside the US for $450. And things like Meetup are also doing full body tracking using just webcams. And it works with WebXR. I saw a React 3 Fiber guy implementing such.
Interesting. Do they have an implementation with Airframe or other open web frameworks?
It was a 3JS thing they were messing with. I can drop a link where they're tinkering around with it.
Is that real time or is that
real time
okay.
with ARKit blend shapes, all of them, 52. Full body tracking with a webcam. Oh, actually, no. This
wait
is
a second. Like, does it work with VR or just an AR thing?
Hard to. It's a VTubing thing, so it could be used for either or. So I would just say mixed reality. But maybe VTubing is like the in between of desktop and VR mode, you know? Because one of the things I learned with social VR and VR chat is that the VR players, when you're a desktop player going into there and you see everyone in VR mode, full body tracking, it makes you want to get VR. So a lot of people do start out in like 2D desktop mode, but the VR people bring the vibes. And when you observe them, you do want to like get a VR headset and then you want to check out full body tracking. It's like that funnel. But maybe the funnel starts out with desktop, then VTubing, and then VR, that little half step in between. So that way you kind of have more ways to animate your character. And if you want to, you can embody it. But for the most part, it makes the presentation so much nicer.
I think that like VTubers or YouTubers in general, it's like a specific vertical of people. So yeah,
Oh,
there
and it's
might.
going vertical for sure, though. Just to kind of play a pun on that, the VTuber phenomenon isn't slowing down. It's getting bigger every day. But it also like overlaps a lot with the VR AR community. We're using a lot of the same standards like VRM.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm going to call it two guys. So thank you again for hosting, sir.
Thanks. And good night.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Good night.
Hope to see you at my group next Saturday.
See ya. Have a nice evening.